For thousands of years, the Galactic Empire ruled the stars. Its fleet spread across hundreds of systems, burning planets, crushing resistance, and turning every new world into part of its golden rule. No race could stand against them, no fleet could challenge them. The Empire's name alone brought fear, whispered through every colony and outpost. The Emperor sat upon a throne made of crystal and steel. Surrounded by banners of conquered species, he was known as the Unending Flame, the ruler whose command reached from one end of the galaxy to the other. His admirals obeyed without question. His soldiers fought without hesitation. They believed nothing could stop them, and for centuries, nothing ever did. On the far edge of the Empire's map, a rebellion burned like a small fire. The Emperor's greatest fleet, led by Grand Admiral Varric, was sent to end it. In the command deck of the Imperial flagship Varkan, Varric watched as the last rebel stronghold fell under orbital bombardment. Columns of fire rose from the planet below, and Varric smiled. "Another world cleansed," he said. "Another example of the Empire's perfection." His officers cheered, but deep in the silence of space, a small tremor ran through their sensors. A faint signal appeared. Weak, broken, but repeating. Varric frowned, ordering his sensor chief to magnify the transmission. Static filled the room, and then a word, soft and distorted, came through. One word that made every instrument flicker and every officer pause. "Terran!" No one spoke for a moment. The signal ended, and the bridge lights dimmed for a heartbeat before returning to normal. Varric turned to his officers, demanding a report. The science officer shook her head. "It's an old code, sir, predating Imperial archives." "We cannot trace the origin yet." Varric waved it off, calling it a ghost signal from ancient wrecks. The Empire was filled with old ruins, forgotten satellites and lost colonies, nothing to fear. But as the fleet turned away, the signal came again, stronger this time. The same word echoed through every channel, even encrypted ones, and something strange began to happen. Systems that were untouched by age started to fail. Power fluctuations rolled through the ships, navigation lights blinked, and the fleet's artificial gravity shuddered for half a second. Varric ordered immediate diagnostics, but no one could explain it. Far away in the Imperial capital, the Council of Science was summoned to decode the message. They dug into the oldest data vaults, ancient digital scrolls written before the first Emperor rose. They found something buried deep, records of a species called humans. According to myth, they came from a small blue world lost to history. They were inventors, explorers, and warriors. But their empire had collapsed long before the galactic one began. The last record said they vanished after creating weapons that could fold reality itself. The scientists laughed, calling it superstition, but one of them whispered something that chilled the room. "If the message is human, it means they are still out there." Meanwhile, in deep space, Grand Admiral Varric grew impatient. He ordered a scout fleet to trace the source of the signal. 5 ships jumped through hyperspace, and for a while their transmissions were clear. Then, silence. No distress calls, no explosion signatures, nothing. They had vanished completely, as if erased. Varric ordered a second group to search. But as they moved toward the coordinates, the main fleet's long-range scanners detected something. A shadow among the stars, large and motionless. No heat signature, no radio signal. No transponder code, just a shape, darker than the void. The crew stared at the display, confused. "It's not a ship," one said. "It's too cold." Too quiet. But as the Varkan adjusted its course, the object moved, just slightly. It was like space itself shifted around it, bending light and energy. The Admiral froze, his voice low. "Zoom in." For a brief second they saw it, a massive vessel, black as night, smooth and silent, its surface reflecting no light. Blue glows flickered faintly along its sides like breathing stars. And then it was gone, as if it had never been there. The entire bridge stood in silence. Their hearts pounding, the science officer turned pale, whispering, "That ship. It wasn't in our database, not even in classified archives." Varric looked at the dark void where the shadow had been. He clenched his jaw, trying to hide the unease in his voice. "Whatever it is," he said, "the Empire will destroy it." But as the fleet prepared to move, the mysterious signal came again. It pulsed through every ship, through every mind, through the very air around them. And once more the single word echoed, clear, powerful, ancient, Terran. The lights on the bridge flickered again, and the engines of the great Imperial fleet slowed without command. Some officers swore they could hear whispers inside their helmets. Others said they saw a reflection of their ship on the sensor screens, but it was reversed, mirrored, as if something was looking back at them. Varric stepped forward, gripping the console. "Find them," he ordered. "Whoever or whatever they are, find them." No one noticed that outside, in the black sea of space, a faint blue light shimmered for just a moment. Watching them, and the empire that ruled the stars, had just been seen. The empire had seen many strange things across the stars, but never something like this. The mysterious signal continued to echo through space, always saying the same word, Terran. No matter how far they moved or how many systems they crossed, the signal followed, growing clearer each time. Grand Admiral Varric tried to hide his fear behind the mask of command. He told his officers it was just old data from forgotten satellites, but deep inside he knew the signal was alive. Something was watching them, testing them, waiting. In the capital world of Vorlus Prime, the Imperial Science Council worked day and night to decode the ancient message. They searched through forgotten libraries, dusty archives, and forbidden vaults locked for centuries. At last, they found a fragment of text buried under security seals so old that no one remembered their purpose. It spoke of a race called humans, a species that had once risen from a small blue world long before the first star empires formed. The record said they were creators of machines that bent gravity and light. They were explorers who vanished after a final war that burned across the stars. No trace of their home remained, only wreckage and myth. One scientist whispered in the dark meeting room, "If they still exist, it means they never truly lost." But the Emperor laughed, his voice echoing across the hall of steel and marble. "Fairy tales," he said. "If such beings ever lived, they are dust now. The Empire rules all." The guards and generals nodded, repeating his words like a prayer. But the scientists were not so sure. Back on the front lines, the Varkon fleet drifted near the border of uncharted space. The stars looked different here, dimmer, older. As if the void itself was holding its breath, Varric's ships had not slept in days, their crews whispering about the black shadow seen among the stars. Every few hours the signal pulsed again, and every time more systems failed. Navigation flickered, life support glitched, and strange readings appeared, numbers that didn't exist in Imperial measurement. It was as if something was rewriting their instruments from afar. Then suddenly, the bridge lights dimmed, and the fleet's scanners picked up movement, a distortion, like a ripple in the dark. Moving slowly toward them, the crew stared, their voices trembling. "Is that a ship?" one officer asked. Varric leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "It can't be," he said. "No ship moves like that." The object appeared again, clearer now, a long silhouette sliding across the stars, black metal reflecting faint blue energy lines. The sensors tried to lock on, but every attempt failed, as if the ship didn't want to be seen. Then a voice broke through the static on all channels. It was calm, cold, and human. "Do not advance. You are entering restricted space." The bridge fell silent. Every officer turned to the Admiral, waiting for orders. Varric stood frozen for a moment, his throat dry. "Identify yourself," he shouted into the comms. "This is the Grand Admiral of the Galactic Empire." But no reply came, only silence and the sound of their own breathing. Suddenly, the radar went blank. Every ship in the formation reported the same, complete sensor blindness. Then, one by one, their engines died. A strange blue haze spread across the fleet like soft mist. Inside it, the stars seemed to twist, and distant voices whispered. The Imperial flagship shook, alarms blaring, but there was no damage. No impact, no fire. Something invisible was touching them, examining them, and then, as quickly as it began, it ended. The haze vanished. The lights returned and all systems rebooted. The fleet was safe, but 3 ships were gone. No explosion, no debris, just gone, erased from existence. Varric stared at the empty space where his ships had been. The crew looked to him for answers, but he had none. He clenched his fists and said, "We find out who did this and we end them." In the capital, the Emperor's advisors finally received the fleet's report. The Emperor's face hardened as he read the data. The lost ships, the signal, the strange energy readings. He summoned his intelligence minister. "Tell the people it's a pirate attack," he ordered. We cannot let fear spread. But deep in his mind, doubt crept in. What if the stories were true? What if humanity had returned that night far from the palace? A small secret message was sent across the galactic network. It traveled through shadow channels and encrypted gates, reaching an old man on a forgotten moon. He read the message, smiled weakly, and whispered, "So they've found the Terrans again. On the edge of known space." The Varkon continued to drift. The fleet held its position, afraid to move closer or farther, and then, just as they began to regain power, a shape appeared ahead of them. This time there was no doubt. It was a ship, massive, silent, and blacker than the void. It moved slowly, as if watching them, learning from them, its hull bore marks, symbols, words none of the Empire's translators could decode. But one officer, trembling, recognized a pattern. "It's ancient Terran writing," he whispered. "It says, Earth." Before anyone could react, the strange ship turned, and with a burst of impossible speed, it vanished into hyperspace. Only the signal remained behind, louder than ever, echoing through every system of the fleet. "We are returning." Varric stood on the command deck, his reflection in the glass, pale and shaken. For the first time in his life, the admiral of the greatest empire in the galaxy felt something new, fear. And somewhere in the endless dark, the forgotten name of humanity had awakened again. The Empire had always believed it ruled the stars alone. Every world they touched had either bent the knee or burned under their cannons. But now a shadow from forgotten time moved in their sky, and even the bravest soldiers began to whisper in fear. Grand Admiral Varric stood on the bridge of the flagship Varkon, staring into the black. His reflection in the glass looked older, more tired, the proud fire of command dimmed by something he couldn't understand. Across the fleet, over 500 Imperial warships waited, weapons charged, ready for battle. The signal had stopped now, but silence felt worse. It was the silence before a storm. The tactical officer reported no movement, no life signs, no transmissions, and yet every sensor on the fleet showed a faint distortion, as if space itself were bending ahead of them. Varric ordered long-range scans, but all he got was static. He turned to his communications officer. "Send out a broad signal. Identify us to whoever is out there." The officer nodded and transmitted the Imperial message of peace and power. For a long moment, nothing came back, only the hum of the ship's engines. Then the darkness moved from the void. A ship appeared, massive, black, silent. It looked like a fortress carved from night itself. Smooth, flawless, without markings or lights. Only faint blue lines glowed along its hull, pulsing like a heartbeat. The Varkon scanners tried to measure it, but the readings made no sense. The ship was larger than anything the Empire had ever built, yet it gave off no energy signature. No heat, no radiation, nothing but silence. Varric stepped forward. "Prepare all ships for defensive formation." The fleet spread out, hundreds of vessels forming a shimmering wall of light and metal, and still the black ship drifted toward them, calm and unhurried when it was close enough. The stars behind it seemed to vanish, swallowed by its dark frame. Then, a voice echoed through every Imperial system, not through speakers but inside their minds. The voice was human, deep, calm, and ancient. "You have entered Terran space." Every officer froze. No one had opened communication, yet every mind heard it clearly. The translator systems translated nothing. It was pure comprehension. Varric shouted, "Identify yourself. By what right do you interfere with the Empire of the Stars?" There was silence for a few seconds, then the voice replied, "By right of survival." Before anyone could react, the fleet's sensors exploded with light. The black ship began to glow along its surface, thin lines of blue energy weaving together into massive geometric shapes. The Varkon's weapon systems locked automatically, target indicators flickering across the bridge screens. "Fire," Varric ordered. Hundreds of plasma cannons ignited at once. Bolts of burning light shot toward the Terran vessel, powerful enough to melt moons. But before the shots even reached it, the bolts vanished. They didn't explode or deflect, they simply ceased to exist. It was as if reality itself refused to let the Empire attack. The communications officer screamed, "Our weapons are offline!"
"Our systems are locking us out!"
Varric slammed his fist into the console, shouting orders. But then the Terran ship moved. Slowly, gracefully, without visible engines. A bright pulse spread from its hull like a wave, washing over the fleet. When it passed, every ship in the Imperial Armada went silent. No power, no weapons, no movement. Thousands of ships drifted helplessly, caught in still space. Then the human voice returned, calm as before. "This sector is under Terran quarantine. Leave immediately or face neutralization." Varric trembled with rage. "We are the Empire. You dare threaten us?" But as he spoke, the lights flickered again, and the view screen zoomed in on the Terran ship for the first time. They saw its insignia, an old emblem of a blue planet encircled by silver wings. At the center, one word was etched in ancient Terran script. Earth. A cold chill spread through the bridge. The stories were real, the myths were true. Humanity had not died, they had been waiting. Varric gave the order to retreat, but the fleet could not move. Their engines were locked by an invisible force. Then, in an instant, the black ship's glow intensified, and one of the Imperial cruisers vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Every officer on the Varkon turned pale, their hearts pounding. What happened? Someone shouted, the science officer whispered. It was erased, the Terran ship drifted closer, its shadow covering the Varkon. Then all at once the power returned. The lights flickered back on, and every system rebooted. A message appeared on the central console. In perfect Imperial text, "You have been spared. Leave and do not return." Varric stared at it. His throat dry, he wanted to fight, to strike. But his instincts told him he wouldn't survive another second. He ordered the fleet to fall back. As they turned away, the Terran ship slowly rotated, its surface rippling like liquid metal, and in a single silent burst of light, it vanished into hyperspace. For hours, no one spoke. The Empire's most powerful fleet had just been defeated, without a single shot from their enemy. Varric stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the dark void. He whispered quietly to himself. What kind of power was that? Somewhere beyond the stars, in the deep unknown, the Terrans watched. Hidden satellites blinked awake after millennia of sleep, sending signals across invisible networks. Humanity had seen enough. They now knew who ruled the galaxy, and they were preparing to return. The first contact had been made, and the age of silence was over. The news spread faster than light across the stars. The greatest Imperial fleet, led by Grand Admiral Varric, had returned home, but broken. Silent and afraid, half their ships were gone. Erased without battle, the rest drifted into the capital system. Engines failing, crews shaken, and officers whispering the same word. Terran. The Emperor watched the recordings from Varric's flagship in disbelief. He saw the black ship appear, saw the impossible vanishings, saw the fleet's weapons fail as if the universe itself refused to obey them. He slammed his fist against the armrest of his throne, shattering the crystal layer beneath his hand. No ship can do this, he shouted. No power can defy the Empire. But deep inside, even he could feel it, the cold weight of fear. Across the galaxy, panic began to spread. Worlds that had once worshipped the Empire's strength now whispered in secret. Tales of the Terran ship grew with every retelling. Some said it was the ghost of a dead civilization. Others claimed it was a god-made weapon that could erase time itself. And somewhere in the dark, a few believed something far more dangerous. That humanity had simply been waiting for the right moment to return. Grand Admiral Varric was summoned before the Imperial Council. He stood in the great marble hall, his face pale, his eyes hollow. He told them everything, every detail, the voice that spoke in their minds, the energy wave, the vanishing ships. But when he finished, the council chamber fell silent. The Emperor leaned forward, his voice low and cold. You expect me to believe this myth? That a single human ship destroyed an Imperial fleet? Varric didn't answer, he only whispered. It didn't destroy us, Your Majesty, it spared us. The room grew colder. The Emperor ordered the creation of a new task force, one stronger than any before, thousands of warships, armed with the latest energy weapons and shield technology. Their mission, find the Terran vessel and annihilate it. But as the orders spread through the military networks, something strange began to happen. Entire fleets stopped responding. Whole sectors went dark, communications cut off, and worlds that were once loyal simply vanished from the network. In 1 week, the Empire lost contact with over 60 systems. Each report said the same before cutting out. A shadow in orbit. The Science Council worked desperately to understand the energy readings left behind. But the numbers broke their instruments. It's rewriting the laws of physics, one scientist whispered. Whatever they are using, it's beyond anything we know. On the 8th day, the Emperor sent his elite armada, the Golden Legion, toward the Outer Rim. 20,000 ships led by his most loyal commander. As they entered the silent sector, the stars disappeared one by one. The Legion's admiral activated full sensors, scanning every inch of space. At first there was nothing, just darkness. Then, without warning, the sensors filled with light. A single Terran ship appeared before them. It was not alone this time. Behind it, hundreds of dark shapes emerged from hyperspace. Silent and perfectly aligned, the Admiral stared in horror, whispering, "That can't be one ship. It's a fleet." Before they could react, a voice echoed again, calm and human. "Leave, or be forgotten." The Admiral ordered all cannons to fire. The stars lit up with Imperial energy, the void itself glowing with the fury of 20,000 guns. But once again, nothing hit. Nothing exploded. The light simply vanished, absorbed into the blackness. Then the Terran fleet moved. They didn't fire missiles or plasma. Instead, small flashes of light appeared around the Imperial ships. One by one, the Emperor's proudest vessels vanished. Erased from existence, the Admiral screamed orders. But his command deck was filled with static and the sound of whispering voices. In seconds, half the Golden Legion was gone. And in the middle of the chaos, the Terran voice spoke again. "You were warned." The surviving ships turned to flee. But hyperspace refused to open, their drives failed, and navigation screens froze. The Terran fleet surrounded them, unmoving, silent, and then everything stopped. Sensors, power, even time itself seemed to hold still. And when the darkness cleared, the entire Legion was gone, erased without a trace, back in the capital. The Emperor fell into silence as the reports came in. His hands trembled as he watched the last message from his fleet. The image of the Terran warship hovering in silence, its blue lights pulsing softly, and then the words that would haunt the galaxy forever. "We are not your enemy, but we are not your prey." From that moment, the Empire began to collapse. Systems rebelled, citizens fled, the once perfect order shattered. Varric stood on his flagship, watching it all unfold from orbit. He whispered quietly to himself, "This is how gods end empires." The Emperor refused to surrender. He gathered his remaining fleets, shouting promises of vengeance. But when his final ships prepared to launch, the stars above the capital darkened. A massive shadow passed over the world. It was the Terran ship, larger now, its surface alive with moving light. Every Imperial defense system activated at once, but before a single weapon could fire, they melted. Towers of steel turned to liquid. Weapons turned to ash. The Emperor looked up from his palace balcony as the great ship covered the sky. He screamed into the wind, "What are you?" And the answer came deep and calm, echoing through every mind on the planet. "We are humanity." The name you erased. The sky turned white, and then silence. The empire that had ruled the stars for 10,000 years had finally broken. Not through war, but through fear, through awe, through the return of something greater than empire. And as the Terran ship drifted away, the galaxy finally understood. The humans were not gone. They were waiting for the right time to remind the stars who truly ruled them. The galaxy had gone quiet. Worlds that once sang with the sound of industry and war were now silent. Trade routes stood empty, fleets drifted without command, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The Galactic Empire, the mighty power that ruled for 10,000 years, had fallen, not with an explosion, but with a whisper. The Terran ship hovered in the black above the Imperial capital, its hull glowing with blue light that faded and returned like a calm heartbeat. Below, the once bright world was covered in dust and shadow, its proud cities nothing but memories. There was no fire, no smoke, no ruin, just silence. It was as if time itself had stopped to pay respect to the end of an age. Grand Admiral Varric stood on the bridge of his flagship Varkon, now the last ship of the Empire. He looked at the silent planet below and the colossal Terran vessel above. His voice was soft, tired. "So this is how the Empire ends," he whispered. "Not by rebellion, not by war, but by truth." His crew stood in silence behind him, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. The Terran ship sent one final signal, a pulse that passed through every system, every network, every mind. It carried no words at first, only emotion, grief, memory, and strength. Then a message appeared on every display. In every language known to the galaxy, "We are humanity. We were never gone." Across the stars, billions of beings read the message. Some bowed their heads, others trembled, others wept. The myth of humanity, the lost builders, the forgotten warriors, had returned not to conquer but to remind. In the ruins of the Imperial Palace, the Emperor's throne stood empty. A single crown lay cracked on the marble floor, glowing faintly with the reflection of the Terran light above. No one came to claim it, no one dared, because power itself no longer meant anything. On distant colony worlds, old archives came to life. Machines built by hands long gone began to activate. They bore the mark of Earth, the same blue planet symbol seen on the Terran dreadnought. Data flowed out like rivers of light, filling the galaxy with stories of what humanity once was. Images of oceans, forests, and cities filled alien screens. The words echoed through 1,000 systems. We left to survive, not to rule. The Terran ship began to move again. Slow and graceful, its engines flared softly, and it turned away from the capital world. No shot was fired, no warning given. It simply left, leaving silence in its wake as it passed through the void. Smaller ships emerged from behind it, dozens of them, all black, all glowing faintly blue. They followed their leader into the endless dark, their formation perfect, their presence terrifyingly calm. Admiral Varric watched them vanish, tears running down his face. He had fought wars across 100 worlds, but he had never seen anything so beautiful or so terrible. He whispered, "They spared us, because to them, we are nothing." One of his officers spoke, voice shaking. "What will we do now, Admiral?" Varric looked at the fading light of the Terran fleet. "We remember," he said, "and we rebuild, not as rulers, but as survivors." Centuries later, historians would call it the quiet collapse. They would speak of how a single human ship ended an empire greater than any before it. They would argue if the Terrans were gods, ghosts, or just humans who had evolved beyond comprehension. But none could deny the truth. Humanity had changed the galaxy forever. Some said the Terrans disappeared again, going back into their silence. Others said they built something greater, a hidden world where they watched from afar. And sometimes, when the night was still, explorers swore they saw a faint blue light among the stars, a glow that flickered for a moment and then vanished, leaving behind only the echo of a voice ancient and proud. "We are humanity." And we remember. The galaxy healed slowly after that. No more empires, no more thrones of gold. Only small worlds learning to live, to grow, to understand. But the story of the Terrans never died. Children whispered it under alien skies. Soldiers spoke it before battle. Explorers carried it to the edge of the known universe. It became more than history, it became a warning. Because everyone knew, somewhere beyond the stars, the Terrans were still there, watching, waiting, guarding. And should darkness rise again, they would return, not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as the reminder of what true power means. The galaxy fell silent, and in that silence, humanity spoke louder than any war ever could.